Ah, Wes.
Yeah, Braga, I didn't sound.
I didn't see that. What's popping?
Nothing much, Braga. It's
Yeah,
this heat.
it is hot.
Lemalapo from work, eh?
Yeah,
You know, Motono Lapa, no, so long one, no, Jaizo, Hoberega, we both are going to
nah,
relax when you waking, but nah,
it isn't.
it's
Nah.
more or less the same thing, Braga.
Did your parents ever tell you, Ore, I used to be like, I can't wait to grow up. I was like, yeah, I used to tell them, I can't wait to grow up. Because the way they were living, it's as if they had the freedom, they could do anything. They were the ones controlling us. They were like, you know what, my child, you're gonna wish to return to that age.
Yeah,
I believe them now.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's true, Braga. That's
Did they
true
ever?
too. Yeah. There's a say. I mean, every parent always says it to ngwana hae or hola o tla di bona, meaning grow up and you'll see for yourself.
Yeah.
Oh, so now we not really grown ups, but we still growing in this process that we are in during our growth. Yet we can still see that what they were saying it was true.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Because some things you experience them yourself. When
Yeah.
they told you don't go to the street and play outside, you always wanted to go out, Braga, and be with other people and have fun. But now you can see that there's a lot of consequences to what we do. I mean, what they say to us, it was something to warn us of how to handle things, actually.
Yeah.
That don't just do things, be cautious somewhere, somehow. Don't just do and expect that there won't be any consequences after doing something wrong.
Yeah.
There's always consequences.
So at least we had those parents that really tried and put us in line.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, true that.
And the that's what I'm saying, the older you get, it's like the more it starts making sense. Everything just starts making sense. Like, okay, I see why they were saying this. I didn't understand why they were saying this. I didn't okay, now I see. In other words, what I think about sometimes is that kind of lesson. I always put it also in a broader scale as to when the Lord says don't do something, it doesn't mean when you are grown now, you already know everything, right? And so when it comes to also the Lord, it's like, can you really be that, I would even say, naive as to think, you know what, if this doesn't make sense, it means that he's wrong. If this doesn't make sense, it means that it's wrong. So, like, I'm speaking for myself, like, it's how I kind of view things. But we're gonna have that conversation. But going back to the parents, right? It is that, because really I remember I was like, you know what, man, I really want to grow up. Like, yes, I'm tired. This thing coming back home early. Plus my worst, I wasn't the firstborn. So when you have older brothers, they go out, they come back late. It's like, why can't I do that? You're just sitting there like, why can't I do that? Right? It never seems fair. But then the older you get, at least you're like, okay, I see now. And in most cases, you're like, oh, and you know what? I really dodged the bullet in 1, 2, 3. Okay, I really, you know what? This really saved me. 1, 2, and 1, 2.
Yeah.
But speaking of parents, I'm gonna talk about Salvacop a bit, right?
Yes.
And I'm thinking about Salvacop now as to actually not now, back then, the kind of guidance we had. The kind of guidance we had. Do you still see that today?
I mean, that Braga's pair, I would say it's not really only Savakop, it's the generation that grew up during those times.
Okay.
I mean, like parents back then, they would smack us for doing something that we think it's not worth to be beaten for. You get that? But now these kids, our parents don't do that. They just shout at the child. The child goes in the room, comes out again, does the very same thing again. So it's something that we our generation have learned from our parents is that, when some things are being done to a point where just saying it doesn't work, there has to be some whipping. And that's how I would say my parents guided me, because I was also afraid to go out in the night, because I knew that if I am outside in the night, when I come back,
the fun is out. The fun is...
There's always a belt waiting for me when I come back. But that also taught me a lesson. It made me who I am today. A person that at some point I can hold back from things that I can see that going out, it's gonna jeopardize my life and the person that I am. You see, so it gives me a guidance. What they actually did, they groomed me to be able to guide myself at some things.
Would you say responsibility?
Yeah, to be more responsible at some point. Yeah, I don't just do things without thinking. I first think before I do and analyze things before.
And now, speaking of which, you are a father, of course.
Yeah, brother.
Yeah, congratulations again.
Thanks, brother.
You're a father now. So those are those the same principles at home you want to install also in your child? Or is it you kind of also have to, modify it, for lack of a better term? Modify it in a way as to, okay, I can see maybe times have changed a bit, and so I have to kind of adapt, but at the same time, I cannot just throw everything away, since part of what they taught me also made me. How do you work that out? Especially now that you are a parent.
Now that I am a parent, I would say I'm not a parent alone in this parenthood. My son also has a mother. And on some things, I would say we both have to decide upon so that we can both work on our child. Yeah, even though, we're still learning on doing such, because at some point there's a tension between us through how we should make our son grow. But it's also a lesson to us that, it's not always a matter of taking what my parents have taught me, bringing it to my son, while the mother of my child is not agreeing to that. I also have to compromise when it comes to some things.
Also, in terms of, she also maybe had a different upbringing.
Yeah,
in that way.
We actually from different
backgrounds,
families. So obviously, we were not really treated, but we didn't grow up in the same way, because my side was more or less like this and hers was like that. So it's bringing two families together and two rules together. At some point, we have to mingle things and work things our way.
And now so far, and plus is young, so there's still a lot of. But then so far, things are not so hectic. It's
Yeah, so far, I would say things are not hectic. Waking up every day, it's a new day for you to learn new things. Even those all things, for me, I would say all things are still in my life when it comes to how I would really love that my son should grow up. The kind of way that I would really wish that my son would grow up, in terms of in terms of not going out or being clubbing, doing all those things, because nowadays, I went home, when was it, last week? While we were there, I stayed right next to a tavern. So on Christmas Day, there was some function there by the tavern, and I would see young kids holding 1 liter Black Label, and it's kind of disturbing that such things can fall onto our children. It can, depending on how we want our children to grow up, because we are the parents to groom our children. We are the one responsible for our children's actions. They say charity begins at home. If my mother was not someone who would have smacked me back then. Maybe I would have been someone else.
Totally different.
Yeah,
And it would depend, especially on what day she decided to smack you.
yeah,
That, yeah.
because there is a limit of
Yeah.
of beating your child. There is a limit because you can't beat your child
Yeah.
until no.
I think what I've noticed is that, particularly when it comes to the beating of a child, right? It's exaggerated, right? As if the parents just wake up, ready to beat you, as if because I believe in beating a child, right? But I don't believe in just beating a child for no reason. Like, if you never taught a child, okay, this is wrong, you cannot just beat the child. The child has to know why I'm getting a beating. And that's the important part. Is okay, why am I getting a beating? Right? That's the important thing. Because I've seen some people, they just, he's just ready. He's just ready. Hey, you see? So but the child needs to know, okay, why? You see? Like at home, that's what I'm not used to. I was never just beaten for no reason. And whenever I was beaten, I knew why I was beaten. Because I was always one, don't do this. Don't do this. Don't do this. And then when it comes, you know, you see, you just know. So in terms of how it's portrayed, I would say indoctrination, because you can tell whenever, particularly when a parent who beats a child is always, particularly in movies, it's always shown as an abusive kind of thing, right? It's never shown in a light where, you know what, okay, this is something that taught a child. There's something that taught a child, because I don't care who you are. A beating always teaches you something, right? There's a lesson behind it. And that's the point, is that there's a lesson. And discipline, I always ask, it's not the first time I'm having this conversation. I say, okay, guys, what is the solution? Fine, you don't want to discipline a child, but which child knows what to do, when and how, right? Because the beating of a child, I always, as I said, I look at it in a broader scale. It's no wonder sometimes I even see most people see God in a different light, because they think, I don't beat my child, so I wonder, why does God punish me, right? It's always that because you never understood why a child needs that. So by the time you reach God, that's why even when it comes to God calling himself a father, it's difficult today because most people don't have fathers. Fathers just leave them. So when he thinks of a father, he does not see the father in that light. He always sees, you know what, in fact, I don't even know my father. He just left me there. So it's hard to really see God as being a loving father for someone who doesn't know a loving father. In particular, a lot of, especially black children, right? I didn't realize that. I remember I used to go to school. Yes, we had our parents, we had all those. But then I realized, most kids, I'm like, they don't have really stable families. They don't have a father and a mother. Is it that the father just left? I don't know how many I know that really didn't have fathers. It's like, hey, man, I don't know my father. I'm like, but then it never crossed my mind, because at home I felt like everybody had one, right? So that's why it was easy for me to see God as a loving father, because I had a father. I knew discipline. I knew those things. It made sense, right? I could see, right? Okay, I could see, okay, God is but for some people, it goes back again to the discipline part. If you don't, there's also a deeper thing that you're missing, right? Now, your child is grown, right? Your child is grown, and then your child gets into trouble, right? Your child is not used to being punished. He's not used to getting, what you said, it's not used to consequences. It's like, usually I do this, my my parents don't do anything.
They just
but then society is so harsh. There's 16 years for you. Bye-bye. And now as a parent, it dawns on you, right? It dawns on you, oh gosh, my child, was I really too soft? Was I, I should have, you see, because at the end, that child is not for you. That child, when you teach your child things, it's for the benefit of us out there. It's not for you, right? You have to think about that. It's not for you. Just like right now, you from work, you are not with your father, you're not with your mother, you are at work, right? And so they were not, they are hardly there. So you have to learn how to deal and write and work with other people, you see? And so, as I said, going back to the beating part, I really find it's really significant.
Yeah,
Right,
it
and
is.
we're missing that. We're really missing that. We like to take the abuse and things, and just like it's the worst thing you can do, and that's the thing. It gets out of context, and right before you know it, it's hard. It's hard,
Yeah.
and particularly on the Lord. But it's hard to really see God punishing you because your parents made it so bad that you shouldn't be punished. I've even heard kids say, "My parents don't beat me. Who are you to beat me?" I'm like, "Gosh, he must think he has a point." I'm sitting there like, you must really think he has a point. You see, they will beat you. They're not your father or your mother. They will beat you. You need to remember that it's not your mother or father, right? But
I think, Spare Braga, you also brought me to something that I've thought of. When was it? Tuesday. Yeah, I thought of it. While I was growing up, I used to love going to correctional to swim. And I had a problem of when the water would enter my ears. So my ears would be painful during the night. And that was a problem. Like every time when we had to sleep, my ear would pain. I would cry out. My father would come, take me to the hospital, tell me, don't go swimming again. Still go back.
Child.
The last time I went there, I got a whipping. That day, it was the last time I went to correctional to go swim, doing those diving things. Yeah, because it also taught me a lesson that for some things we take them too light, but to our parents it's something serious. Just imagine if my ear, it was a serious issue there. It would have damaged my ear. The swimming thing would have damaged my ear. I wouldn't have recovered that. Now that my father whipped me and I got a lesson from that, now I can hear.
Yeah.
You see? So at some point they prevent you from things that can really harm you, or from facing things in future and taking them to at points some people go into suicidal minds easily because they were not guided in a way. Like for me, I would say if I was not whipped, maybe I would have been that soft person. If I were to go out, meet someone, maybe someone teases me, I was gonna cry or do something or feel as if though the world hates me, take things in a bad way. Now that they really made us strong, like our parents made us strong so that we can also go out of the house, go face real people. I mean, someone can laugh at me as long as if I don't know you, I won't care. Like I'll just walk past by and I know that maybe I won't meet you or I'll meet you. When I meet you, I'll ask you, hey, Braga, why the little that? Yeah. So, that's the role of parents. They are there to guide us as kids and to groom us and show us where we can't see. They are the ones to put us in the right position of life. Because we live to learn. They also live to learn.
Yeah.
But new things. If it's new to you, it doesn't mean that it's new to them.
You know what I'm thinking? It's like testing a product, right? Testing a product. I don't know how many times you have to keep testing it because you're trying to improve it. Right?
Yeah.
We're not products, but that kind of example is too. They already did their mistakes, and they don't want you to repeat that because they know the consequences of those mistakes. They just want the best for you and say, "Listen, don't do this." That's why sometimes you'll never understand. You can do something as a child, man. I mean, your parents are so angry, you don't understand. What is it so bad that I did, right? And then the older you get, you're like, I almost cost them a lot that time. You see? It's like I really almost cost them a lot, right? And the way I know you, obviously you're a religious person.
Yeah, but that's true.
So that's why I keep adding this as to for mostly God to make more sense, you need to be raised in that way.
Yeah.
It's easier. And I'm saying it because I've seen it, right? I've seen most people start really learning and understanding God when they humble themselves, and they are willing to learn, put themselves in that position, right? Not to act like you know everything. It is true that you can never please the Lord without faith. I believe that because it's the same thing at home. If your parents tell you don't do this, sometimes your mind is really too small for you to understand what they're saying. You just have to trust them. I trust them. I see they really love me. That is enough, right? And for some people, especially people that are non-believers, I've seen they have that issue. They just want to know everything. No, why is it like you can't? That you'll never. Right? You're approaching it the wrong way. You'll never know everything. You can't expect every answer for everything. You see, that's not how it works. That's why for a parent, it means you should have left home and ran away because your parents never answered you the way you wanted them to answer you, right? The way that makes sense for you. So in that light, that's what I'm saying. You put that in the perspective of God teaching you something. It's like, I trust the Lord. He loves me. I might not know it now, but I know in due time it will be answered. And that's what I'm saying. Being a parent is really important. You learn those things. It's easier to even trust and love the Lord. It's easier. You see.
Yes.
And from you, when did you find your faith? Like,
when did I find my faith? Well, I grew up in a family where we attended church. But when you grow up, you don't know where you are until you know where you are. Like for me, I would say I was someone who attended church or go to church. I believe that there is a God, but I didn't have that relationship or knew God in the way that I know Him now. I wouldn't say I know God in totalness, but I know that there is a loving God. So by the age of, let me say 2002, the first camp that I went to, we went to Durban. Yeah, that's when I started knowing more about God because I knew a bit about God. That's when I started knowing more. And 2003 was a year where I actually played and I didn't have time for God. 2004, that kicked hard on me. That played a big role in my life, for all the lessons that I got from Penn and going out to Durban, that played a big role. Knowing that there is a big God that made the sea and gave it a limit. Just waking up in front of the ocean, looking at the sunrise, it touched me. Those such roles played in my life, and they made a huge difference in my life. And all the lessons that I got from Durban, because we had a lot of praise and worship. And through the praise and worship, I had much faith in God. I had so much faith. Plus, the school that we used to attend, it also played a role. Because I couldn't read and or write, but I had friends who could read, and I was someone that while growing up, I wished that I can at least read a word. But I said, hey, there is a God, let me put my faith in Him. And prayed and kept on having faith in God. And that also helped me because I started knowing how to write, did my matric and passed, went to college and passed. I would say knowing God, I started in having a close relationship. It was in 2004. 2004. I was 14 years old. Yeah.
And then now, how is the relationship still?
Now I would say, I can't say I do pray every morning and before I sleep. During the day, I can't say I forget God or I just live just no. Like during the day, there are moments where I could be alone and do things and remember that while I am in this process of doing such things, am I really with God like right now? Such thoughts do come to me day in, day out, like every day. So my relationship with God, I can say every day when I wake up, I pray to Him to give me a day that I will learn more about Him and get closer to Him. Walk on paths that He has paved for me. Unlike walking on paths that I wish to walk upon, because such paths are paths that can lead me away from God. So every morning when I pray for such to walk where He has made a footprint for me to put my foot upon that footprint.
And now where your life is,
Yeah.
will you say that the Lord is paying attention to you and blessing you? That you're in good favor?
I am really feeling blessed, like really, really being blessed, to be honest. Being blessed. For me, I would say my faith is more being manifested right now. Because there are a lot of things that I can say I am achieving and I can see that this is from God. When God blesses you, no one can withhold your blessings. Hold your blessings back. No one can do that. Like now I am seeing blessings from Him. Yeah.
And it is true that patience is key. Is it?
True that.
It is.
True that.
Because sometimes it looks like you're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
It's like, things are not going my way.
I used to say patience is the key to success.
Yeah.
Patience. Because I've been patient, to be honest. Like, not just only me, but throughout the course that we were in at the academy, like you'd feel like quitting, brother. Have you ever felt at the point that you feel like you lost? You don't know where you're going. You don't know where's the light. You like inside the tunnel. You don't know where to go, whether to go forward or to go back. That's how we felt, most of us at the academy, because nothing was happening. And rumors will always be there saying, hey, they're going to chase you away, such things. They also depressed us. They also depressed us, yeah.
And were there people who quitted also during that time that made you also want to really quit?
I would say I remember of one who has quitted, but they spoke to him and he came back and he quitted. I don't know the actual story of that guy, but I remember of him that he once quitted. Yeah. But that actually, he quitted on the last days where we were almost done with everything.
Okay.
So by then we could see that there is some progress. We're busy, But we had a time where it was just quiet. No one knew anything and there was nothing happening. So it also brought us down, in life, that, after all these years that we've been studying and doing this, and it's it's about to end now.
Yeah.
So
at least to do this thing. That light at the end of the tunnel. There's that light at the end of the tunnel.
That light, it's a celebration to me. It is a celebration.
Yeah, because I remember I was like, is he still? Because he's supposed to be done most now.
Yeah.
I was like, man, is he really? Like, something is happening. I don't know what it is, but
it was
something
long,
is happening, man.
It was long.
But then at the end of the day, you need that long suffering. You need
True
that.
True that.
You need that, right?
Throughout all the troubles that we go through or things that bothers us, there is a lesson through that. There is a lesson. Because I also learned a lesson, to be patient, to know that there is a God. Because during those moments, like, it was quiet, it was the moments that I would have more focus.
Yeah.
going through the Bible, going through Mark Goodman's videos, just to understand more about God.
It's interesting because when it came to Mark Woodman, he's also the one who really like strengthened my faith. He showed me things in a different light. Because I'll be honest, when I was growing up, yes, we talked about God and stuff, but it was never like in that kind of way, right? It was never like, it was always as if it's like you could separate. It's as if this is just a faith thing, just believe. And so it never had really like evidence to back it and say, okay, listen, this is how things are, right? But then when I started watching it, it really did, it made it easier to defend my faith. It made it easier, I even had better, arguments. Because I remember people used to ask me, why do you believe what you believe? It's always the question, why do you believe what you believe, right? And I notice a lot of people do that, right? Remember what you said is like, I grew up in a Christian home, right? I'm gonna say I grew up in a Christian home. But for you didn't end there. Yes, you grew up there, but then you went and, you discovered God for yourself. You had a personal relationship. Right?
Yeah.
Yes, they played it, but after that, it was done. It was time for you.
For you to.
Yeah. So
play
I still hear I'm talking grown up people.
Yeah.
My parents taught me this, and I'm like, I don't think that's an answer an adult should give.
Yeah.
That's like parents taking you to school and you're still saying I was at school because my parents taught me to go to school.
Yeah.
Like there's something you're supposed to have learned already at school.
Yeah.
There's something you're supposed to have learned.
There is always an after school.
Yeah, and after school, okay, what did you learn? Like, what can you show me what you learned? So that's why I'm like, man, you're really without excuse. You're really a grown person for you to speak like that. I still believe my parents taught me. They will always teach you things, but at the end, it's up to you. As I said, it's just like school. You'll hear someone will never say when you ask him about his occupation, it just says it's rare. Obviously, he's going to say it out of frustration, but it's rare when he says, you know what? Or not actually really a job, but also a belief system. I'll make an example.
Yeah.
If someone is maybe into, what is this? I would go as far as saying the scientific world, right? You're going to ask him, okay, why do you believe, right? Why do you believe maybe that the earth is round? Right? Why do you believe that? I mean, he's not going to say, I believe it because, at school they taught me. No, he's going to start, if you look at the way the earth is, he starts really pointing things out that will make you think, right? Oh, okay, right? It's more, I would say more reliable. It makes more sense, right?
Yeah.
Even so, like, hey, man, why? Tell me, man, why do like, what is it? If I drop this glass, why does it break? Someone will say, you know what? At school they just taught me this, and and it taught me that if a glass falls, I mean, even if you have to say that, it still doesn't answer. Yeah, but why does it break? Until someone tells you, no, man, listen, it's made out of so and so, right? If you drop it, right, at this kind of rate, it breaks, right? Because it's made out of this kind of element. Unless if it was this kind of element, like a steel, it was not gone. You see, now you start, right? And so you think I'm actually contradicting myself as to, earlier I said, no, you don't have answers for everything. But no, it's about the balance. It's just about the balance. Yes, there's a lot of things I don't know about the Lord, but there's also a lot of things I know, right? A lot of things that just make sense as to, okay, I see why I believe in what I believe in. Yeah, so I was just adding to that.
Braga, I think what actually kills other people's beliefs is that they don't want to know more about God in His good ways. They want to know the bad side, the bad things that they think they are bad about God. They don't question the Bible without reading it clearly with understanding. They'll just read it and say, why does this happen? Not knowing why it has happened. Read throughout the whole verse or the whole book and try to find understanding. I mean, you'll always find understanding through something that's being written. It's being written for you to understand,
And I can really agree with you. I know people that do that. It's like, same time, he's just gonna come and say, you see, the Lord destroyed so and so. And I'm like, yeah, but did you read the whole thing, right? It's like, no, and I've had this debate with someone, right? He's like, why? But why did God do that? Why did God punish and destroy those nations? It's like, yeah, but read what happened. It's like, no, right? It's like, no, there's no way. If a God really loves you, you will never do that, right? And I always ask a question. I said, if someone came and killed all of your family, and God let that person go, would he be a good God, right? And it's like, no, he would. And I would say, why not? According to your understanding, he's supposed to be a good God because he let those people go.
Yeah.
Isn't that the whole point? And it's like, exactly, stop being ignorant. Find out why God does what he does. You cannot say no. You see, I always emphasize on people, guys, if you want to learn things, don't ever put no matter what. You're limiting your understanding. Don't be too, that is ignorance at its highest. Don't never say no matter what. It must, no, you're being ignorant because there is always a matter what. We have jails here because they are criminals. People are really evil. It's not like you don't know.
Yeah.
People are really evil. You know that. Stop acting like you don't know, right? And the question is like, but why did God allow so and so to be raped? Or why did God allow so and so to be killed? And I'm like, what about you when you first had your first cigarette? What if God killed you? I'm like, there's a lot of things that you think you have a point, but you don't have a point. You think you do, right? Because that's the thing. You put yourself in that moral thing. Oh, I say no. What about you? When you didn't come back home because you were partying, what if God killed you then? Like, you don't have, like, guys, stop saying no matter what. Read, understand. That's what I'm saying. If you let God, I'm telling you, the way you will broaden your understanding, the more, now when you hear people, you're like, Ish, and they really think they have a point. You know, every time you listen to them, you're like, and they really think they have a point, but this person doesn't have a point. He's forgetting 1, 2, 3. He's forgetting 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Because if God says God is a just God, it is true that he really is a just God, right? But then you need to also understand that God is God. God has his ways of dealing with things, and how he deals with them, you have to really prove that he was wrong at that, right? Yeah, you have to prove. But man, I really wish we had more time to talk. We'll delve into some other conversations, you know. Yeah, don't worry. I brought back KNS. I think KNS is the only one I brought back. But I'm going to bring back some of the people, and you'll be one of them, you know. We'll also delve into other conversations and stuff. But all in all, man, it was good having you.
Thank you, brother.
Shosho, brother.
Thank you, brother.
Shosho.